Here's one question that I have here on YouTube from Sister Lulu, and this is a great question. And I'm going to explain to you guys why I like this question that she's asked. The reason I like this question that she asked is because I, Layla Nashiba, am also a writer. I am an author and I am a writer. You know, it's something that I've done ever since I was a kid. I love to write. I write. I used to freelance write for different magazines. I freelance wrote for Reader's Digest, for Better Homes and Gardens. I did a Cosmopolitan article. That one was pretty good. I've used to write for a lot of different Oprah's magazine. When Oprah magazine first came out, I was one of her first writers. You know, so I used to do a lot of freelance writing, and I also am a journalist. I used to do freelance journalism too, for different news agencies and newspapers here in the Ohio area. So, and also New York. But so being a writer, and I'm also writing a novel, and my novel is not about Islam. I'm writing a paranormal romance novel. That's what I'm writing. And I've been writing this novel for the past 3 years now, and I can't finish it because every time I go to write, this website comes up. So I really like this question that Sister Lulu has asked. And let me share her question with you guys. Sister Lulu, she says, I have always liked reading and even writing romance novels. But now I'm not sure if this is permissible for me to do or not. And this is the thing that I want all Muslims to understand. When it comes to the lawful and the unlawful, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said they have both been clearly defined by Allah. What does that mean? That means if something is not lawful for us to do when it comes to our everyday life, such as reading or writing a romance novel, there has to be a clear verse from the Quran that says it is forbidden to read or write a romance novel. The Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam taught us that there are no gray areas. I repeat, there are no gray areas. I repeat it again, there are no gray areas when it comes to the lawful and unlawful, because it's already been addressed. Allah said, on this day have I completed and perfected your religion for you. Allah did not forget anything, as the Prophet said. Allah is not forgetful. And Allah perfected and completed this deen. So when it comes to the lawful and unlawful, there are no gray areas. However, what the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said is, there may be some things that you don't know the answer to. There may be some parts of this religion that are gray to you because none of us knows it all. So he says for you to stay away from that which is gray that you don't know the answer to, and instead ask the people of knowledge. Until you find the answer from them, you stay away from it, and that way you'll protect your deen. So that hadith is Bukhari. That hadith, so many Muslims fail to understand. So now this sister doesn't know. She's a new Muslim. She just converted to Islam. She's struggling with what's lawful for her to do and what's not lawful. I want you also to understand that the Prophet Muhammad was clear. He said most things in life are lawful. When it comes to our everyday dealings, most things are lawful. He said the things that Allah did not mention are all lawful. Learn to accept Allah's concessions for us. So, romance novels. Does Allah mention anything in the Quran about romance novels? No. There is no verse, no nas in the Quran that mentions anything about romance novels. Let's go to the Hadith, because Islam is only based on two sources, the Quran and the Hadith. Did the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mention anything about romance novels? Well, let's talk about it. And this is what we're going to talk about. Let's just go ahead and talk about it. And by the way, what are you getting a today? Let's talk about it. Any other questions?
This is gonna be good.
Welcome to Ask Sister Layla Live. Let's talk about this. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was illiterate. What does that mean? That means he could not read, nor could he write. Most of the Arabs were illiterate. As I've taught you, out of all his wives, the only wife that the Prophet had that could read and write was Hafsa, radiallahu anha. Even our beautiful Aisha couldn't read or write. But just because the Arabs could not read and write did not mean that they didn't like to hear about books and things. The Arabs were great poets. Poetry, that was their favorite pastime. Even Aisha, radiallahu anha, she used to love to write poems. Her father, Abu Bakr, who was the best of this nation after our prophet, Abu Bakr was a great poet, a great poet. So they had poetry back in those days. And everyone loved to be entertained by poems. Even our prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, loved poetry. In fact, he said the poet Labid speaks the truth. When Labid made a poem speaking about how people behave in certain situations. So novels are not haram. Allah doesn't mention anything about a novel being haram. What about romance? Romance. There's different types of romance. Now, what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, he liked poetry, as all the companions did, because the Arabs were a poetic people. He said one thing about poetry, though, be careful of the wording in it. If the poem is speaking about immorality, then we stay away from it. If the poem is written to move your heart to want to commit sin, we don't deal with it. Okay? So the same with reading a book or writing a book. I am a writer. If you're going to write a romance novel, you want to make sure that it's done with taste. As I am writing a paranormal romance novel. I am a paranormal writer. What does that mean? I like to write about stuff that don't exist. I like to write about werewolves, vampires, fairies, and things like that. And I'll put a little bit of romance in there. But the romance I put in my books are with dignity, humility, and balance. They're not X-rated. You won't find any 50 Shades of Grey in my book. You might find 1%, but it ain't no 50 shades of gray. Okay. So it's not a matter of whether a romance novel is haram to read or write. It's what type of romance is it? As long as it's in good taste, there's nothing wrong with that. Because our prophet loved poetry, all types of poetry. He said, as long as the poetry does not impinge upon Islamic morality or values. And Allah knows best. And so we have to be careful, guys, because a lot of brothers, I've listened to some famous speakers, some famous daya. They were asked this question by college students because a lot of people like to write, especially people from the Arabic background. I've heard some famous brothers tell Arabic kids, Arabic students who are going to school for writing, that it's haram. Why would you tell them it's haram? Just say you don't know the answer. Instead of saying that we don't know, we're quick to say something is haram. So we have to be careful of that. But it's not haram. Bring the nas. Bring the nas that says it's haram. If you can't bring the nas, then shut up. Because as our prophet said, most things are lawful in life. And Allah knows best. All right. Next question. Anybody here to read them, or do I have to go through them?
I got them. With the sister who asked that same question, she said that she wasn't sure because typically in romance novels, they are not married or in Muslim relationships, for example, kissing and boyfriend and girlfriend and stuff like that.
If you're writing, why aren't you writing it? I'm a writer. My romance novel that inshallah will be made into a movie. By the way, y'all look out for it because I'm trying to finish it. I got a Muslim production company that wants to make my book into a movie. Mine, they are married. It's a romance novel, all right. And she gets married. So again, as long as it doesn't impose, if you're writing a book, as long as it doesn't impose upon Islamic morality, then there's nothing wrong with that. Okay? And even when it comes to reading such books, if it makes you want to go out and get a boyfriend, then don't read it. Like the prophet would tell the companions, be careful of the poems you listen to. If the poems is about sex and it's causing you to want to go out and have sex, if it's about love and it's causing you to get weak in love, then don't read it. So everybody is different. We have different levels. I grew up in America. Love is everywhere. They write about love. The world is love. Love makes the world go round. America, you become numb to that crap because love and sex is everywhere. So I tune it out. Looking at a naked man doesn't do anything to me. I mean, seriously, because it's everywhere. But we're all different. We have different strengths, different levels. So if it impacts your faith, if you're too weak to read those type of books, then don't read them. But I cannot tell you it's haram because it's not haram unless Allah says so. But every person knows themselves. Do you understand? So if you can't handle it, don't read it. If it bothers you, go read about action. Go read an action book. Or do like I do, read fiction. Read about paranormal. That's why I like dystopian and paranormal books. They're not reality based. Okay, go ahead. Next question.